The player to know for Texas A&M as they get ready to face Arkansas is running back Jaquindon Jackson.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about some Arkansas players to know. We're going to talk about some position battles that we need to see. We're going to talk about why you have to establish the run in this game. And then we're just going to talk once again about why this game is so important for the Aggies. So starting with some players, Arkansas players that Texas A&M fans need to know. I think the number one name on this list, some say it's Taylor Green. Right? Maybe. We'll talk about Taylor Green. He is a player to know. But I'm telling you, after watching the film, running back Jaquindon Jackson is the player that Texas A&M needs to watch out for. So let's pull up the numbers so far on the season. On the year so far, Jaquindon Jackson has 69 carries for 472 yards, 6.8 yards per tote, and 8 rushing touchdowns on the season. He's not a guy. He's a little bit involved in the receiving game. 5 receptions for 49 yards. There's a threat there, but once again, he's here to run the rock, and it'll make sense why once I give you his height and weight. Jaquindon Jackson stands 6'2" and weighs 233 pounds. He is a massive running back. And I was really, really thoroughly impressed watching him on Saturday against Auburn. And ironically, I don't think it was his best game. I mean, it was not. I mean, it was actually by far his worst game of the year. He was 22 for 75 on the ground, did have 2 touchdowns in that game. Other games, against UAB, he had 15 carries for 147 yards and a touchdown. Against Oklahoma State, in that tight loss, he had 24 carries for almost about 149 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then in the blowout win over Arkansas Pine Bluff, he had 101 yards on only 8 carries and 2 touchdowns. So he's just a guy. He's a running back who mixes strength and speed. And that's what is always scary. With that, I'll run over you at 6'2", 233 pounds. He's from Dallas. And, he's just a guy that flat out can beat you as a running back in so many different ways. He can run past you. He can run around you. He can run through you. He can do all that. And I'll tell you this, the Aggies have not been as good as I would have imagined stopping the run so far this season. So this is definitely something. And what makes him even better, what makes Jaquindon Jackson better, is the threat of Taylor Green being able to run the ball. That makes him even better. Also opens up things in the play action passing game and the downfield attack through the air. But I'm telling y'all, Jaquindon Jackson is a player who Texas A&M fans need to be ready for, because he is very capable of going off for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns in this football game if you don't stop him, if you aren't doing a good job of getting after him. The next name I have here is the wide receiver 1 for the Razorbacks, and that is none other than Andrew Armstrong. Huge receiver, 6'4", 202 pounds. Another guy birthplace here is Dallas, Texas. Armstrong is a player who at Arkansas last year had 764 yards and 5 touchdowns. And this year he's already got 348 yards, 23 receptions, 248 yards. He hasn't scored yet, but he, once again, watching a replay of the Oklahoma State game and then watching the Auburn game, Armstrong looks like his dude. In that Oklahoma State game, he had 10 catches for 164 yards. Didn't score, but still. And then against Auburn, he only had 5 catches for 47 yards. But what really stood out to me in his performance in that football game was the way he just found a way to get open on third down. He found a way to be a safety blanket for Taylor Green. He looks like a really solid receiver that he can hurt you downfield. He can be a possession receiver. He can be a guy that gets to the sticks and picks up first downs. There's a lot he can do at a high level. And he's a player that Texas A&M needs to be prepared for, because if you aren't, he's going to be open a lot. So this is something, he's a player that I'm definitely watching in this football game. We need to see him show up and him play well. So that is something that I am monitoring in this game as well. The next name here is someone who hasn't done a ton so far this season, and he didn't do much against Auburn with 1 catch for 3 yards, no catches against UAB, 2 for 46 and a touchdown against Oklahoma State, 3 for 42 against Pine Bluff. But that's Luke Haas, the tight end. And this is purely based on what he did last year and what I think he can be. I think he's a really good football player, and I don't think his numbers this year have matched what I would have expected from him to this point in the season. But I think he's a really good player, and I think he's going to get it figured out. I think he's going to get dialed in. I think they're going to try and start using him more, and he's a really, really good tight end with a high upside. He's probably not number one on Texas A&M's we're worried about this guy list right now. But I'm just telling you, he's a guy that if you aren't careful, he can hurt you. So that is, definitely he's a player that I'm paying attention to. He's not going to be this guy that, has a ton of excitement around him heading into the game, but he's the guy that you could look and go, oh man, he had 7 catches for 62 yards and the touchdown in that game. Man, he was open all game. He's picking up third downs. That's why it's so important to take care of him. Then the next name I have, it of course, is Taylor Green. I'm telling y'all, I've been impressed with him. I know that he makes some poor decisions in the passing attack. I know that he made some bad throws against Auburn. He made some poor throws in other games this year. But his ability to run the ball and his ability to his ability to throw the ball still is really scary. I mean, I think Taylor Green is a good quarterback. I agree. Yes, he's making some bad decisions. He had some bad throws against Auburn. There's no question. But I really think that he's a guy that when he plays well, he can beat anybody with his arm, with his legs. He's just, once again, he's a huge quarterback, about 6'6", 230. He'll run through you. He's strong. He's a guy that I'm definitely paying attention to here in this football game, because I believe he's the type of guy that can go win you a game. The next name I have here is Landon Jackson, the defensive lineman. On the year, he has, where's his stats? Lost him. Oh, he has 10 tackles on the season, 2 pass deflections, which is funny, but a guy that he really can just wreck a game when he needs to. 6'7", 280 pounds, strong guy. Coach Elko talked about him the other day. He talked about how he remembers this recruitment. He remembers how good he is. Landon Jackson's a really good player with a really high upside. He was a highly ranked recruit. He's a guy that, can do a lot here. He had 6.5 sacks last season. He has not gotten rocking and rolling with the sacks this year, but he's a guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. You have to account for him. You have to be ready for him, because if you don't, he's going to really, really, really hurt you. So Landon Jackson's one defender to pay attention to. And then the last is TJ Metcalf. On the year so far, he has 17 tackles. He has a forced fumble, and he has 3 interceptions. He's a DB that creates havoc. 6'1", 200 pounds, strong guy. He's a player that if you're not careful, he'll pick the ball off. He can do a lot well. He's a DB that really impressed me in that game against Auburn. So he's a guy that I am 100% paying attention to in this game. He had 2 interceptions and that forced fumble all in the Auburn game. So he's a player that I'm paying attention to because he's really, really good. We're going to talk about why the Aggies need to establish the run game, and if they can't, it could be a problem. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. First, I got to highlight my Roy Player of the Week from last week, and that is none other than Theo Mellon-Orstrom. A guy that I didn't see having a huge role on this team, and he's just come in and he continues to play good football. He continues to impress the coaching staff. Been really happy with the way he's played so far this season. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. Download Roy for iOS or Android and enter referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered in the sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. So yeah, once again, this week I have picked Theo Mellon-Orstrom to be the Roy Player of the Week. If you were impressed with his if you were as impressed with his performance as I was, you can show some love too. Just hop on Roy and throw him a few bucks. If everyone pitches in $10, it adds up fast for Mellon-Orstrom. Now you have a chance to show your appreciation for Mellon-Orstrom and his standout performance this week, as well as what he'll continue to do for the rest of the season. Get off the sidelines and into the NIL game with Roy. Also want to tell you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit another leading job site. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. So in this football game, I think one of the most important battles for the Aggies is establishing the run game. And I'll tell you why. I think that Arkansas, for most parts this season, has done a solid job of stopping the run. Auburn had, I think it was $140 on the ground the other day. Let's see. Had $146 on the ground the other day. 5.6 yards per carry. And now, once again, though, it's funny because when Auburn was running the ball in this football game, I thought, if y'all haven't watched that game, go watch. It was the weirdest football game with all those turns. It was a weird game. But it felt like it was a bend, don't break type of run for Auburn against Arkansas. Arkansas wasn't giving up the really huge run. And then when they did give up the huge run, this running back from Auburn had a 36-yard carry, and then he fumbled the ball into the end zone, and it was turnover. So, and I believe that was the one that was forced by Metcalf. So, that's how Auburn ran the ball against Arkansas. But then you look at Oklahoma State with a player that everyone expected to be the Heisman candidate running back in Ollie Gordon. And Ollie Gordon, who's not had the year many expected. He's averaging 3.5 yards per carry. But still, point is, Oklahoma State was only able to run for 59 yards on 26 carries, 2.3 yards per tote. And once again, this is an Oklahoma State team that many believed was going to be one of the, better running rushing attacks in college football. So, and we know how bad. And I agree, game script played a little bit into that game. They had to throw it more. This was a shootout back and forth. I mean, once again, Bowman threw the football 48 times. I mean, this definitely was a bit of a downfield game for Oklahoma State. But still, I mean, when you hold Ollie Gordon to 2.9 yards per carry, when in a long rush of 12 yards, you're doing something right. And knowing how much Texas A&M and Colin Klein want to run the rock, this football game is really going to be made or broken by how well the Aggies can run the ball in this football game. I think that they're going to. I believe they'll be able to establish the run. I think this offensive line all season long has done a good job creating holes in the run game. I think that the running backs have had a really solid season. I've been impressed with Texas A&M's rushing attack so far this season, and I believe that'll continue this week. And on the year, Texas A&M has run the football already for 1,024 yards, which, I mean, you take that all year. Like, where are some other teams at? Arkansas is at 960. Not bad. Right there with us. But still, point is, you run it for 1,024 yards so far on the season. And, I mean, running at 5.9 yards per carry, like, that's going to get the job done. 5.9 yards per carry is going to get the job done. We've discussed you've run it 174 times compared to 101 passing attempts. Colin Klein wants to run the football, especially when you have a quarterback like Marcel Reed, who is averaging 6.8 yards per carry right now, 217 yards on 32 carries and a rushing touchdown. You've got a quarterback who can run it. You've got running backs who are off to a good start this year. Le'Veon Moss is at 5.6 yards per carry. Mari Daniels is at 5.1 yards per carry. EJ Smith's at 4.3 yards per carry. You have the running back stable and quarterback to be able to run the rock. So that's going to be interesting. That's a position battle in this football game I'm definitely watching, because here's the deal. I mean, it's going to be really hard for Texas A&M to win a game if they can't get the run established. They have to find a way to establish the rushing attack. And I think that is going to be something that they are really trying to do in this game, because, as we talk about all the time, if Texas A&M isn't able to establish the run, can Marcel Reed beat Arkansas with his arm? And that is a significant question mark. I mean, I don't know. Can he beat him with his arm? I genuinely do not know. So, something I'm paying attention to in this game is how well can the Aggies run the football against a rush defense that has had its ups, had its downs, but I believe top to bottom is going to be pretty solid. It's going to be tough to run the ball against. We're going to talk a little bit about the importance of this game and why it's going to mean so much to this season for Texas A&M. We'll have that conversation coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I want to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. I told y'all I had a huge win on FanDuel the other day. Not huge, but I'm not a big unit bettor personally, but put $5 on the first touchdown scorer of the Jaguars Bills game and the Commanders Bengals game, and was James Cook and then Jamar Chase won $290 on that. It was very exciting. It was a ton of fun. Once again, and you can do the same thing. All you got to do is head over to FanDuel.com. And don't forget that FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook and our partner here at the Locked On Podcast Network. So this game for Texas A&M is a really, really, really important one. And the reason that is, I talked about this throughout the week so far on Monday and Tuesday. I think that Arkansas, is significantly better than what I thought they were going to be this year. I was not expecting much from Arkansas. I think the play of Taylor Green has really elevated. I mean, he gave him a chance against Oklahoma State. He was able to go beat Auburn on the road. I think the play of Taylor Green has really taken Arkansas to a level this season that I just flat out didn't see them getting to. And I think on the show tomorrow or Friday, one or the other, I'm going to predict the rest of the season for Texas A&M based on what's going on. And we'll do the same thing, once we get to the bye week. But this game, and I talked about it for a second yesterday, is so massive for the rest of the season. You still have some tough games left. You got trips to South Carolina, a team that's solid. You got to go to Auburn. They look terrible, but it's a team that's going to play there's never fun. You still got to host LSU. You got to host Texas. You got to host Missouri. You got a lot. You got to go to Mississippi State, which not too terrified about that one, but still, it's a road SEC game. There's a lot of concerning games still left on the schedule. And I think that if you put yourself in a position where you find a way to start the year 4-1, you beat Arkansas. I mean, here's the deal. We talked about it. To overachieve, I think you had to be 4-1 in the first 5 games. It'd have been really ideal to be 5-0. Wasn't in the cards. Notre Dame game just didn't go the way you'd hoped. But 4-1, and I talked about this all offseason. If you're 4-1 or 5-0 after the first 5 games of the season, you are putting yourself in a position to win 9 football games. And that is why this game, to me, is so important. I believe this game will make or break so this game, and then being able to beat one of these 3 teams, LSU, Missouri, and Texas, winning this game and going 1-2 in those games, in my opinion, will now make or break the season. You did a good job taking care of business against Florida, who we don't believe is great, but still, it doesn't matter. You got to go play him. You got to go beat him. And you did on the road with a quarterback making his first career SEC start, first career start period. You found a way to win. That was a huge one. Now you got to go find a way to take down Arkansas. And if you do that, I'm telling y'all, you're 4 wins away. So think about that. If you beat Arkansas, you are 5 wins away from 9 wins. And that's still with games against Mississippi State, who I think is an automatic win. I'll be honest with y'all. New Mexico State, which is an automatic win. That gets you to 6. I think South Carolina is beatable. I think Auburn is very, very beatable. In all honesty, I think Missouri and LSU are beatable. I really do. So I think if you win this game, we're back in the okay. Texas A&M is very capable of going 9-3. And that would be really, really cool in the first year of the Elko era. That is going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. Really, really appreciate it. Going to try and set up a Locked On crossover with John Neighbors. Going to work on that. Leaving for the beach. I will be at the beach on a fishing trip with my grandparents next week. It'll be business as usual show-wise. Nothing's going to be different. I just will be at the beach. I'll be in a different location. So trying to get some stuff done early in the week because I got to get packing and get ready to rock and roll. We're leaving first thing in the morning, Saturday morning. Going to have to watch the ball game on the road, which is not going to be fun. I'm going to say, Mom, you got to drive while A&M plays. But so that's the schedule there. We'll try and get a crossover going. Keep y'all updated on that. I want to do a predicting the rest of the schedule type of thing. Lots of fun stuff left this week. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you tomorrow right here on Locked On Aggies.